quick introduction really quickly. Just saw somebody join that I'm so glad is here, Jennifer Dunn. Jennifer, you're unmuted. Go ahead and let's do quick introductions, who
Okay.
you are.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Dunn, and I'm Vice President for Science at the Santa Fe Institute, and where I'm also a professor. And my, for people who know SFI, we do work across all the scientific disciplines, but my background expertise is actually in ecology.
Great.
And she's a pretty mean bass player too. And then we have a colleague still and former coworker, Emily Wolfe. We're just doing quick introductions.
Hi, it's so good to see you guys. Hi, I'm Emily Wolfe. I'm working with the National Parks Conservation Association, and as Rich mentioned, still involved with River Source and the great work that you guys do. Thanks for hosting this.
Hello, Emily.
And we're only going to do this one round because other people join, they're not going to get this rich conversation. Christine, I know you did this already, but some other people may not know you.
Sure. Just a very quick introduction. So I'm Christina Fisher, work at Think New Mexico. I'm associate director. And I think we worked with a niece or some type of cousin of Congresswoman-elect Alicia Leisure about 10 years ago. So she was an intern. And then I'm also on the board of the Albuquerque Wildlife Federation. We do restoration work on public lands in New Mexico.
Wonderful. Alicia is recovering as a niece.
Yeah.
Wonderful. She was great to work with.
There's good stories there. Harris, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, Congresswoman. I'm Harris Klein. I'm chairperson of Trout Unlimited New Mexico Council and also president of the Bosque chapter. And I met you at Buffalo Thunder. I'm a state central committee member, and we were waiting for, I think, multiple hand counts trying to get you top billing on the ballot. So that's where I know you from.
Thank you. We did get me top billing. I think we did a good 42% in that one.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
And why don't we do the staff too? David, you want to go?
Sure. I'm David. I work with River Source. I started working with River Source in February. I studied geology. I went to Colorado College, and I've been working in outdoor and environmental education the last 5 years.
Great. I've heard a lot about David.
He's the one that has big adventures with that.
I know.
Let's see, Dan, would you mind going next?
Sure, yeah. Good evening. I'm Dan Roper. I am staff with Trout Unlimited here in New Mexico, Nambe, and I do a mix of state policy and then also work on anything that is a federal campaign related to public lands or waters. That's usually something that falls in my lap for us.
Great.
And so look forward to working with you in the coming years.
Yeah, Renee.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Renee Hernandez. I was born and raised Santa Fe. I just recently graduated from NMHU with my BA in conservation management with a minor in forest management. And I've been working with Rich since October, so I'm still really new and learning the ropes, but I'm really excited to be a part of River Source and participate and help with what they do. So
great.
So did we get everybody? Kyra, do you want to, I don't know if you want to, we'd love to hear from you and even see you. I don't know, I would recognize you.
Hi, this is Kira. Thanks so much for having us. I'm the Congresswoman-elect's campaign manager. So just glad to be here. And sorry, I was not prepared to be on camera today. So I'll try to get myself together.
All right, well, just a couple real, just what we're looking at for this first early session is just having a chance to have a dialogue, ask questions, share perspectives in a smaller group format, and around 5:25, we're going to start transitioning. Give everybody a break, basically, before we go to a general session around 5:30. And at that time, Carlos, which he'll be joining us soon from Bandelier. He's gone up to Bandelier and is going to be bringing us in from there with some song in that transition period. And we'll get together again for a bigger group and for the latter part. So I just want to say a little bit about me and River Source and how we're going into our 23rd year or something like that. It's 97 that we started, and I still like it. And it's put food on the table. And I get to work with amazing people in amazing places, which is kind of how I figured out I wanted to do this. But that's a bigger story. And River Source supports people living as good stewards of their watersheds through all kinds of education work and really focusing on science, but also policy. We do policy education, civics work with youth. And we also work with communities. My training is in planning, community and regional planning. And I look at things through that lens. And I really get a kick out of building social capital. And then we also do research. We actually have good data, and we're able to use that data to make decisions. So that's a little bit about River Source. Now I'd like to turn it over to our MC, Abelino Fernandez Ledger, and let him introduce himself and our special guest.
Hi there.
And okay.
Yeah, hi. My name's Abelino. I was recently brought on as an intern with River Source to be part of the stream survey project, hoping to relocate beavers into more of northern New Mexico. And I was extremely grateful for that opportunity. Had a blast and really learned so much from that project. I'm currently in a gap year in between my sophomore and junior year of college. So this is by far the most I've learned throughout my whole gap year has been with the 2 months I spent out there with Rich and on all these field days. And through that, I kind of dragged my mom into this. My mom, Congresswoman-elect Teresa Ledger, she, not only has she, worked her way up to U.S. Congress, but being a mother, she is thoroughly instilled that sense of conservation into me that she holds dear. Growing up in this place in New Mexico, there's just so much natural beauty here. And it's combined with all the cultural beauty that we have here. And that's that sense to preserve both the natural and the cultural beauty in New Mexico is what, is definitely filtered down from my mom into me, just throughout my upbringing. So without any further ado, I'll just pass it over to my mom, Teresa Ledger. She's just going to kind of, we just want this to be a conversation, a dialogue. So take it away, Mom.
Well, thank you, Abelino. I might also suggest that, do we have your door closed? Because I hear an echo. But
it sounds okay.
Yeah, is it okay? Do you hear out? One, I really want to thank River Source. You don't know how many delightful dinners we have had as Abelino has come back and shared the stories. He loved the fact that the car was coated with mud. He didn't want to clean the car because it was sort of like a badge of honor, and as I drove up to get my coronavirus test, one of the guys is like, "Boy, where'd you go through?" And I said, "Oh, badgers." And so we got to, I had a great conversation of badgers with somebody in Norteño who, has a badger problem. So I referred him to, what you guys are doing of trying to find new habitat for badgers. But, I thought that, I have among here these wonderful names, and we're such a small group, that one of the things that I was thinking about as Abelino just mentioned, I call all my children interchangeable names, as he just mentioned, the idea that, we somehow carry in us, we each carry in us sort of the memories of the moments, the experiences, the shimmers that we get from being in nature, from walking in nature, from working in nature, right? From playing in nature, and that those shimmers of that joy and that delight, they lodge in our bodies, right? And it's those experiences that become our way of knowing, from our body in our soul, right? That the struggle that you are all engaged into, that, the way Rich describes it, isn't so much of a struggle, right? It's a joy, but this work that you do to preserve, this beautiful place we call home. And it's that sense in the body and those memories, I think, that tell you that what you're doing is the absolutely right thing to do. And I have a lot of those stories and those memories. And one of them I thought I'd share with you happened to me as me and the boys were backpacking in the Latier Wilderness. And I don't know if you can put up that photo, Abelino, of us backpacking in the Latier Wilderness, if we can share it. So look at that. Isn't that great, right?
Yeah.
Here, Abelino is to the right. Those are my other two sons, Alessandro and Dario. He is actually about 12 or 13 then, so he's not that young, but his backpack is, everybody carried a backpack. He was not carrying everybody's stuff, right? But, this is, I think, how people fall in love with the place we call home. And one of those beautiful memories I have from this trip was as we were walking back down, from the Latier Mesa, right? Where you can look down at the lakes. We had camped, that was like our third night camping, and we had camped at the lakes, and we were walking back to Cabresto. And as we were walking, you guys know that lake, right? You must have, River Source had to have been on the lake over and over.
We have monitored there. Yeah.
Right. It's so beautiful. And I can tell you that walking along there, looking at the vibrancy of the colors and flowing along that stream, listening to those gurgles, the boys ended up leaving me because, let's face it, I'm a little older than they are. And they're like, they wanted to get on their way. And I mean, those were one of those moments that I come back to every so often, because those are those times that I know you have all felt them, right? Where you literally disappear into nature and you truly become one with it. And right, that is like Buddhists talk about when that happens to them. It takes a lot of meditation. You get there in that moment of when you merge. We get to get it just because we live in this beautiful place we call home, and we hang out in it and we love it. And because of that love, we want to do everything we can to preserve it. And so what I thought I'd ask, we don't have a lot of time, but we have a little bit of time, maybe 10 minutes, is if anybody wants to share a sense of what was your beautiful little moment that you carry inside of you that becomes a touchstone for what you do and how that, it's the right thing to do.
What a good question. Yeah, and apropos to the way we approach our work, it's very somatic or touch, it's about really connecting in a visceral way, and that's what you're talking about. Who would like to go? That's a great question.
Harris is unmuted, so we're gonna call on Harris.
Harris, what do you got to say?
Well, I grew up, was born and raised in Las Cruces, and was best friends with the Salopek family, who farm about 7,000 acres of pecans down there. But what I was able to do with those guys, because my dad was a businessman and worked, seemed like 24/7, we explored the Gila. And so to me, the Gila is my heart. We would go in there for 10 days. Nobody knew where we were. We didn't see anybody, but just had a blast. And back then it was even more primitive than it is now. So we went places that I'd love to recapture.
I would, the Gila is one of those places that we haven't gone to because we're from northern New Mexico. We still haven't discovered everything we need to in northern New Mexico, but I keep putting it on my agenda, and I didn't get to go because it's not in my district. So now that I'm actually elected, I get to go, because I was going to run away and then I was like, that's not in your district. That is. It's like, but it's beautiful and it's in my state. Anybody else?
In your state.
It's in my state.
I think, I mean, similar to what Harris was saying, you know, I grew up in Santa Fe, and just my earliest memories are playing in the arroyo behind my house, and just sort of the pinon juniper forest, and following the arroyo and seeing what came down in a flash flood, you know, what washed down from up above. But it's just sort of feel very rooted there. And whenever, you know, I was away for school, would always kind of go back there mentally and know that was kind of my home space.
There are those, right? And we keep pulling back and forth. And I'm so happy that I think we've done that to Abelino, because where he's not going to be able to truly leave. And that's what happened to me every time I went away somewhere. You know, I'd go, you know, to the East Coast, to the West Coast, to Peru, to Washington, D.C., to New York, and I always get pulled back home because it's such a strong, you know, there's a rootedness. But the great thing is that you can be rooted in a place that you do not actually come from. You can become rooted in this community of New Mexico, you know, after a week, right? And we hear so many of those stories, and I really appreciated them. Jennifer, you're new to, where are you from? With the Santa Fe Institute, and you know brings beautiful minds from all over the place.
Yeah, I originally came 20 years ago as a postdoc, thinking I would only be in New Mexico for a year or two, because that's what you do. You postdoc and then you move on. And I'm one of the people who got sucked in by Santa Fe, New Mexico, and SFI itself, which is a really special place. And one of the places I went hiking most recently, and it's a place I've been many times, but I introduced it to a friend, is Plaza Blanca. And I mean, being able to explore the nooks and crannies of New Mexico and nearby places, including things like Plaza Blanca, which is just around the corner, and the Badlands of New Mexico. That's an example of Badlands. Bisti Badlands and Dana Wilderness are wonderful also, and Kashikatui. I mean, there's so many special places. And also deep history, because I'm very interested in, some of my work is at the intersection of archaeology and ecology. So all of the ancient places that we have here that go back so far in time. So.
Yeah, they do. And I had not been, this is one of those things where the great thing is with your children is you start learning off of each other. And so he had talked about those, and they did a movie, and they did a project for a school. And and I had never been there, right? You drive to Abiquiu. I represented the Hickory Apache. And so I drove that stretch of highway once a week for decades, and I didn't even know it existed. And yet there it is, a different place altogether. It's breathtaking, right? You're wandering in a different place. What about you, Renee?
Yeah, actually, I was just thinking two that are coming into my mind is probably one of my earliest memories, and then one of the most recent memories. I was probably about 3 or 4 with my dad. I'm born and raised in Santa Fe, but when I was little, he would take me fishing with him, and the time that I'm thinking of, it was out in Pecos, and particularly the Monastery Lake. And I remember being so tiny, and he was explaining to me about dragonflies and about how and why we're fishing and all of this stuff, and it just sticks out to my mind. And I just remember being so happy in that moment. It'll stick with me forever. And recently, just this past October, I hiked Hermit's Peak for the first time. And that was the time that, for the first time recently, that I got that feeling again when I made it to the top. Because there was a couple of times where I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make this. But that feeling after I made it was amazing. And I really enjoyed the way you described it, Teresa, just how it roots you. It's connection, it's just something that is right and that you're supposed to fight for. So yeah, I feel it with you guys.
That is great. Well, that is the case, right? And when you're standing up there at the top of Hermit's Peak, that is my backyard. And I actually took Alicia on that hike. Oh, I don't know. The kids weren't with me. The boys weren't with me. I don't know why not. Maybe you're at your dad's, but it is beautiful, but it is hard, right? I don't know how many, are there 26 switchbacks or stuff?
It's really washed out right now too. So there was big boulders and stuff, which added to it. Yeah. It was amazing.
And at the top is right. And at the top is that beautiful spring that you can drink from.
Yes, we did. Yeah. Yeah. It was amazing. Yeah.
And the other thing that's at the top there is that beautiful spring, which apparently, obviously the hermit from Hermit's Peak would have been able to get his fresh water being so far up. But there's also, I don't know if you noticed, there's a big ring of stones. And those stones were the teepee rings by which you can tell where the Apaches traveled. And when my partner, Bob Nordhaus, did the case that made it to the Supreme Court, actually, but about how you determined what the Apache lands were those teepee rings, because they would go to the same place and erect their teepees, and they went through and they identified teepee rings throughout the Apaches' historic land. So, as Jennifer was pointing out, there's always an interplay of history and the old and nature in all of these things. So it's a beautiful place, and Hermit's Peak is one of those places. So
Awesome.
yeah, and we have 2 rich traders, but that's because that's not rich.
No, that's because Carlos, our colleague, is logging in. Is he here?
He is just come
Is
on.
he just entering? Yeah. So that's Carlos Herrera.
Yes,
The
I know.
Son of Arnold Herrera, who you may have met. Like everybody knows Arnold.
Yes. Yes. Well, the thing is when I met Carlos, he had a mask, so I didn't know he had a mustache.
I wonder if anybody else wants, that was such a rich conversation. I'd love to hear from anybody else who just wants to pop up, unmute and go ahead.
I can share. I've got the cat and the dog hissing at each other next to me, but I think that, speaking to the feeling that you guys are talking about of just like kind of a thrill of doing the work in this field has kind of come in the Valles Caldera quite often. I have done some work with Rich there and Carlos on education and in grad school, some research, and every direction you turn is just the most beautiful sight you've ever seen. And so that's a really incredibly inspiring place to me, and speaks to the history, the incredible volcanic and geologic history, as well as all of these really interesting ecological aspects of it. So that's a place that is so special and always kind of brings me a lot of life.
That is exactly it. That is a gorgeous place. And I don't think Abelino has spent time there, but that is he's a downhill skier, but that is a beautiful place to cross-country skiing as well. And then it gets quiet, know, and the strength. The thing is, I sometimes think of our mountains as having the kind of strength that you get when you look at an ocean as well, right? That there is some kind of strength that seeps into you just by being able to look in them and to be in them, and that fortifies us somehow, right?
Yeah, and I did spend some time, a lot of time in the Jemez Mountains with Carlos Herrera, who just joined us, monitoring various rivers up there. And I think you can see in his background there, he's in Bandelier.
Hello.
We surveyed the frijoles there and found some beavers actually. But at this point, I'd actually like to turn it over to Carlos Herrera, who's gonna do some drumming for us, I believe.
Is he going to do that when we let everybody else in, or in this session as well?
He's going to go ahead and let's just do he's going to do a transition, like starting soon. So we can all get up and go stretch a little bit, and listen, and watch if you'd like. And then that'll also,
before we start that, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I've been having some technical issues too. I couldn't hear it. My mom was trying to hear it. Yeah, so we're all here, by the way. So
we'll say hello to mom too.
Yes, most definitely. And I'm trying to transition all of that too. So but yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the next place that we're going to meet you guys all. And yes, I am in Bandelier, where I met Abelino and everybody else. So we'll meet you guys in a few seconds, and I'll pull out my drum and let's have a great time.
Yeah. Okay. So I just wanted I see Steve Harris. Steve, you want to unmute and say hi before we, I think he got in, either I got him in late or he came in late. I don't know which. You want to say hi, Steve?
I wanted to be early, but hello, everyone. I'm sorry I'm here in the shadows. Most of my Zoom conversations have concluded before 5:30 in the evening, so I see I kind of look like a shadow to you guys. But Madam Representative, I'm a river advocate, and I look forward to talking with you a little bit later about some of the things that's going on with New Mexico's rivers.
Thank you. Look forward to hearing it.
Yeah, as he's often known, Uncle Steve was our second investor in RiverSource. He gave us a contract in 1997 to do research on restoration projects in the Rio Grande at that time. How many did we find at that time?
I think
Like
you found
11.
18.
Like 8 or 11? Now there's hundreds. And he's the one that got that started. And of course, yeah, Rio Grande Restoration is his nonprofit. Anyway, Steve, you got in right at the time when we're transitioning into the general meeting, and we're going to give everybody a little stretch break. And you're going to get a chance to hear Representative to speak again, but we're going to just, Carlos is going to sing a song, a Cochiti song for us, a Pueblo song.
Beautiful.
And then we'll get it started around 5:30. Okay?
I'll be standing by.
Thank you.
All right, Carlos, you want to take it away?
Yep, I'll go ahead and take it away. Just give me a second. I'm dealing with some issues like we all do over here. Okay, can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hold on real fast. All the sounds running through there. Okay. So come close to me.
So we have started some of our
Way ya, hey, yo, yeah, hey, yo, yeah, way, yeah, hey, nay, yeah, way, yeah, hey, yeah, way, yeah, hey, nay, yeah, yeah, hey, yo, yeah, hey, yo, yeah, way, yeah, hey, nay, yeah, way, yeah, hey, yeah, way, yeah, hey, nay, yeah, yeah, hey, yo, yeah, hey, yo, yeah, way, yeah, hey, nay, yeah, way, yeah, hey, yeah, way, yeah, hey, nay, yeah, yeah, hey, yo, Here we go. Thank you guys very much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, thanks so much for that, Carlos. That sounded really good. Surprisingly good for Zoom. I am impressed.
What was this song? What was this song?
Yeah, this song was one that my grandfather sang a long time ago. So I'm happy to be coming to you guys from Bandelier National Monument. Yeah, so we got these fancy backgrounds, and I'm excited to be here, by the way. So yeah, and I'm sharing my headphones, by the way, with my mom. Come over here, Mom, and say, "Come here, Mom."
Lisha!
Mom.
Say hi.
Come here. No. You need to step into the screen, Mom, not your hand. And so this is my mother. She wanted to be a part.
Okay.
And guess what? We're having technical difficulties.
There she is.
We couldn't get our speakers to work. So we're sharing these headphones today so that she can hear what's going on.
Oh,
so
good.
I hope everybody's doing well. You know, technical difficulties happen in these times. So hopefully that everything is going well for everybody that is out there.
Well, and let's remember we're all, I'm assuming we're all on the, on this continent, so we're on indigenous land. So, all right, great. I'm glad you're here too, Alicia. Okay, so welcome to the 2020 first ever virtual River Conclave. And for River Source, this is something that we've tried to do. It's actually maybe our second attempt. Emily, back in the day, helped us put on our first one in person. But I'm so glad all of you dressed. You look fabulous. And just quickly, before we get onto the program, we are going to try to stop right around 6:30. Okay. We're going to have a chance for Congresswoman-elect to speak and then interact and ask questions. We've got a pretty small group. We've got 22 participants, and we do have a live online auction that's actually turned out to be a pretty cool thing. I'm just going to kick it off by saying, I'm so honored that you're all here and making time to learn a little bit about River Source. going into our, I think our 24th year. It's actually our 24th year. And it's a time of harvesting in a certain way, and a time of total pivoting. And we're still doing the same stuff though. We're working with communities, we're working on education, and we're working on research. And we have some really exciting initiatives I might have a chance to share with you later. But first, I want to turn it over now to our MC, Abelino, who's looks like he's just gotten off the, he's just arrived in Venice with that hat or something. He's going to introduce himself because we've gotten to know him very recently, like the last 8 weeks. And then he's going to introduce his mom.
Yeah, so my name's Abelino Fernandez Ledger. I joined RiverSource in the past 2 months. I was very lucky to be brought on to be part as an intern. I'm in between my sophomore and junior years of undergraduate, and I decided to take a gap year during this COVID time. And I was lucky enough to find my way into RiverSource's hands to help out with the field project that we were doing, where we would go out in combination with support of Trout Unlimited. We went across all of northern New Mexico and surveyed various river systems, the small streams, to determine whether they would be good places to relocate beavers to, where they're otherwise unwanted. And also to find out and monitor the beavers that are in those streams and see how they're doing and see what kind of impact that beavers can have in river restoration. That was really awesome for me to see with, tagging along on these field days to see the river restoration impact that these beavers can have. And just learning so much and absorbing so much knowledge from Rich and David and Carlos on these days that we had. So I was super grateful to have been working with RiverSource the past 2 months doing that awesome dream project, as Rich has described it. But yeah, we're gonna have a chance for my mother, Teresa Ledger Fernandez, to speak. I'm really proud of her for multiple reasons. She's a great mom and all that, but also, she's a fierce advocate for these lands that we call home. The motto of the campaign was simply protect what we love. And I think that's, no more exemplified than in protecting these lands, these rivers, and all these ecosystems that we love. And more so, I'm proud of her because, her approach to solving these grand environmental problems is it's unique in the way that it combines, in much the ways that RiverSource's approach does. It combines community with that conservation. So it's working with those communities, with those rancher communities. We come from a total ranching family on the eastern side of the mountains. So it's combining those communities with the lands that they steward to reach our goals of protecting what we love. So without any more, I'd like to turn it over to my mom, Congresswoman-elect Teresa Ledger Fernandez.
Thank you, querido hijito. So thank you, RiverSource. I want to really thank you for inviting me to participate here with you. I mentioned to, I've mentioned to others, about how important this experience that Abelino had at RiverSource was. It made for great conversations across the dinner table as I learned about the different rivers, that some of which I knew and some of which I didn't, and then learned to love beavers. I need to tell you, I'm like, beavers are where it's at. They're such great working families. They work to preserve our land and to recreate water sources. And I didn't know all of that, right? And they're not really the cutest, but once you learn all the work they do, they are definitely the cutest. So I'm very thankful to RiverSource for giving Abelino that opportunity, but also to giving the opportunity that you give to so many others, to students across the state, and to recognizing that the manner in which we succeed in protecting what we love, protecting, this beautiful place we call home, is really incorporating everybody into that effort, is recognizing the role that the old acequia, and land grant families have, the role that the ranchers on the east side have, the role that, our Pueblos and Navajo and Apache nations have.
Nope.
And the newcomers, that recognizing all of that is how we get stuff done. I was often talk about the importance of carrying inside of us memories, moments of, shimmers that we get, these beautiful jewels that we get from playing in nature, from working in nature, from, being in our mountains or on our rivers. And that is those experiences that we carry inside our body, right? We all know what that feels like. We've talked about that, about how you carry that inside. And that's when you do that, that inside of you, as you do your hard work, or sometimes the work might be good, but easy because you get to be along the rivers as Abelino is, but that that it comes from inside you, from your corazón, from your soul, that's the right work that you are in. And I am so very lucky because at this moment in time, I know that is where I am, that I am carrying with me the experiences of a lifetime that I will take with me to Congress to try to urge funding for and protection of the issues that many of you care about. I am originally, my familia is from Las Vegas, New Mexico. I'm the daughter of these amazing bilingual education pioneers who knew that preserving our Apachequeros, Tiwa, Tewa, Towa, Zuni, Navajo, and Spanish languages, that preserving our languages were part and key to who we were in each of our groups, that was where our strength was, and that was really important. And so they were, my mom is recognized with one of those historic markers on the side of the road. And my dad was just as important in that effort. But they also taught us about the importance of the land. We're from, I haven't been around as long as, the Cochiti, but we've been here for 17 generations on the European side, right? And we're all intermarried along the way, but those, so we come from some old land grant families, and I'm still a parciante in 2 different acequia systems. And at one time I was an acequia commissioner, but where I first developed, started growing those wonderful, cells inside of me that said that protecting the land is what you have to do, was really in those early days in San Miguel County. I worked for the Youth Conservation Corps. That was my very first job. And I think of River Source because that's like what you guys do, right? You give these opportunities to our youth, but it's also where I learned that taking care of our land is a lot of work, right? It's not easy. And I knew it was a lot of work because I would see, the work. We would get sent to the ranch, and, the girls back then, worked in the kitchen, and the boys went and helped with the calving and with the cutting and with the branding and, all this stuff. And they'd give me the old horses to ride on because they just thought it was hilarious to have the little skinny girl get stuck, with the mules. They sent me out to pasture to get the mules back, and so, I knew how much work it was, but there's a difference when you're actually doing that work, building that trail. And you carry that with you as you go along. And I was very lucky in that I have been able to work alongside both, Native Americans, as well as acequias, as well as on Latino civil rights and other matters. And some of those lessons, I'll share with you one that I think I will carry with me always. And I know Carlos, this will ring true to Carlos, and that was regarding the protection of water. That was the Zuni Pueblo was fighting the Fence Lake coal mine. They was an effort to try to actually have a coal mine right around where Fence Lake was. And it was recognized that, as you all know, coal mines use a lot of water. And there was a big fear that the amount of water they would pull out for the coal mine would destroy Zuni Salt Lake. And Zuni Salt Lake is sacred to not just the Zuni, but to the Navajo, to the Laguna, to the Acoma. It's a sanctuary. And it is a place where even if the herb, whatever that you could have no conflict within that lake. And we had to fight it. And on behalf of the Pueblo of Laguna, I put on their expert testimony to fight that lake. And my expert was a war chief. And what I loved was I actually had the court recognize that the expert that they must listen to was actually the one who knew most about the culture, and it was the war chief. And the war chief taught everybody in that courtroom that day that the role of the war chief is to pray. But when he prays, it's not just for his own Pueblo. It's not just for his own people, because that would not be a true prayer, but that he must pray not just for himself and his Pueblo and his people and his family, but for everybody in ever expanding concentric circles out. And that prayer must not only include a prayer for the people, but a prayer for the land, for the waters, for everything that's living on that land. It was so powerful, that statement. I felt so bad that we had to actually place such sacred language into a courtroom, but it was incredibly powerful. And it was from those times that I recognized and I've learned that we must always think about all the work we do as expanding outward and including everybody in it. And I think that the way in which I've learned that RiverSource works, that is what you are doing. And I want to commend you for doing that. And it is those kinds of stories I'm going to also ask the people who are on here. One of the things that I get to do as a Congresswoman is convene, is listen, is collect problems. So as you are out there working on things and you recognize that something is wrong and that maybe it could be fixed, and maybe it could be fixed with federal law, bring it to us. If you are working on something and you are having problems with the federal agencies, and bring it to us. I mean, that is my job. My job is to work alongside you as a co-architect on those things we must solve in order to protect this beautiful place we call home. So that is something that I would be asking you all to do. As we think about, our time together over the next several years, my cycle is 2 years. But as we move into those 2 years, please reach out to me. Bring me your ideas, bring me your problems. I can't solve like all your problems, but the ones that deal with the, with the federal agencies. And when we think about things, right, we are all saying goodbye to our amazing, wonderful Senator Udall. And I love the way in which Senator Udall said we must think about our public lands in a way that they are part of our solution to our climate crisis. In New Mexico, we are the ones who are at the forefront of that. We have to be, because we are a fragile landscape, and you know that. And you know that climate change, when it comes, it will hurt us more than so many other places. The coast and New Mexico are going to suffer like no other. And so we must do everything we can to fight that crisis so that we can have water running in those rivers, so that those beavers can create home for their little ones and for their successive generations. And so that is something that I hope to take on and move even further than where our amazing Senator Udall did, work together with our amazing representative, Deb Haaland, who has done such great work already, and Ben Ray Lujan, who will now be in the Senate. And we have a lot of people who are in this fight with us. I've only been up for orientation for 2 weeks, and I already have identified so many allies that we will have in this struggle to protect this beautiful place we call home. So I'll leave it there, and we can have a conversation and do our wonderful silent auction. But I will do whatever that MC tells me to do.
I still think we have a few minutes for a couple questions, not too many questions as we are running close to 6. But if you have a question, there shouldn't be too many people that we can just unmute and ask it real quickly.
Yeah, you're able to unmute. So let's just do popcorn. And I just quickly want to say, because I put it in the chat, that the work that Abelino did with us was funded by a lot of fisher folk and the TU chapters around the state. Every chapter contributed, plus the state organization and TU National. And that's how that work happened. It was a dream job, maybe a once in a lifetime job, because it was really a blast, and we've got good data. and we're working on it. We'll be getting that to them soon. And Abelino's going to help edit it. Yeah, let's go ahead and unmute yourself. We'll be somewhat, go ahead and pop in.
Hi, this is Harris. Don't want to forget Defenders of Wildlife. They also helped fund this.
Thank you.
See, that's what I love actually, is this idea that it's really so collaborative, right? That there is no sense of, and that's where we need to get to, I think, in so much of our problem solving and so much of what this country needs to do, where we get to a point where we realize that everybody can contribute and that we're getting, the hunters, I hunted, right? That's how we make our tamales, is with, somebody needs to get lucky and get the, and so we need to recognize that there are different, that everybody has a place and a role and a way to contribute to get to this place where we need to go, so that we can get the beavers or, the silvery minnow, whatever it is that we're working on trying to do. Abelino also got to work on silvery minnows this summer or fall. So any questions?
This
Comments?
is Ralph Vigil.
Hola Ralph, ¿cómo estás?
Muy bien, ¿y usted?
Muy bien, ¿qué pasa?
Gracias a Dios. I'm chairman of the New Mexico Acequia Commission. And we're facing a lot of battles over here. Rick has been very helpful, Rich, in making videos and trying to put us over here. But water transfers are a big thing for me. And all these water transfers going to all these Texas billionaires that are buying all our property out over here. And then they're taking the water from our gente. The acequias just don't feed the irrigation of the land, the corn, the water, whatever. It's a unique habitat. And if you look through New Mexico and if you do a Google scape, just go through Google Earth and you'll see where the acequias thrive. And it's been taken away from us, and it's political, and it's a land grab, and it's a water grab. And I'm on this conversation to let people know that, there's people that want to just take our water, and we can't allow that to happen. What we need to do is, I think we need a collaborative to try to form more small farmers so that we can feed a bigger system and shorten that food chain. So that's what I'm all about, is shortening that food chain. And we don't need food from California, Mexico. We have plenty of food that can be grown here, but nobody's working on it. So that's where I'm coming from in a perspective. And then water transfers, exactly. You know that we're going through this water transfer here in Pecos, and it's a horrible deal. What the state engineer's doing. But Ben Ray's been behind me. So it's just, I don't know. I'm so passionate about it that it's hard for me to bring it out. But it's my great grandfather was the first Hispanic territorial governor of New Mexico. His name was Donaciano Vigil. And he's the one who settled here in Pecos. So it means a lot to me for our water to be taken out of here and for our water to be transferred for other people to make profit. So that's one of the things that I wanted to bring up, is how do we keep our water in our communities?
What could be done on a federal level as you think about that? Because I mean, I can think just in the Pecos example itself with the mine and all that stuff, and there's a lot of stuff going on.
So on the federal level, I mean, the reality is water rights are state level. And in New Mexico, one of the things that I worked on, in fact, my first political ad was about the work I did with Aura Sequia, where we fought a developer who was trying to take water out of Aura Sequia. And what we were able to do there, except for you have to do it early on in the process, was we were able to prove, we had a hearing and we proved that any transfer of the water right to the developer, which would have taken it outside of the watershed, would have harmed the pacientes. And you can prove, if you can show that the pacientes, that has to be done early. And that's one of the ways in which I think fighting the Pecos mine might be a thing where, but what's key is that the pacientes have to show up and testify about the harm that will happen. And so the things about internal, it's not federal law, but what a congressperson can do is help convene, make sure that people have access to the information about, like, this is a fight. David Benavides over at the Legal Aid worked with us on that one. And so he knows the legal right on that one. I think that particular battle might have moved beyond that stage. But the other thing that Ralph points out that's so important is we need to be able to create the conditions by which our farmers and our ranchers are able to actually make a living off of using their water rights and using their land, so that they don't feel the need to sell them, right? So that, and I love the un poquito para un poquito para nos, un poquito para las criaturas de Dios. Something like that when you were talking, Ralph, in the beautiful Kavu film about the wildlife corridors, is, the ranchers and the farmers, they help protect that land and they help maintain the water, right? And the soil health is so key to the water. So on a federal level, what we can do there is we can help in terms of, I would like to see us have more federal funding for protecting those water sources, for providing the funds to the small farmers and ranchers so that they can do that regenerative agriculture, so that they can make a living on their smaller plots. Those are the things that I've actually already talked to the incoming chair. We are going to have a new chair of agriculture, and we've had those conversations. I said, these are the things I care about and that we need to work on. And so I think we're going to see some of that. I will push for that because you're absolutely, Ralph, right. You're absolutely right, Ralph, that we need to provide the resources so that those acequia waters can be used and we can feed ourselves in the way that makes people be able to also make a living being able to do that. So thank you for raising that, Ralph. I think that's really important.
And the thing that I brought up is a old saying. I'm not sure if your grandfathers or your great grandfathers have told you this, but it's para nos, para vos, y para los animalitos de Dios.
Yes.
And it's for all of us. And we dry out the acequia corridors by selling out the water rights. You won't have the green belts in New Mexico. They're prestigious wildlife corridors that create habitat. And it's starting to be stripped from us, and it's political. It's big time. And I won't be afraid to say who it is. I mean, like over here in Pecos, we have this water transfer going on. 20 acre feet went out. Another 20 acre feet are going to go out. And the state engineer reversed his decision. And it was because the Speaker of the House told him to. And Brian Egoff holds a lot of power. And I'm sorry, people get mad at me and say, oh, Ralph, you're going to kill yourself politically by talking about Brian Egoff. I really don't care. Brian Egoff is stripping my damn ancestors' land and water and selling it off to the highest bidder downstream so that he can have a world-class hunting and fishing resort. No, that's not what our water's for. Our water's for to feed the gente, to feed the aquifers, to recharge, to do everything that we're doing. And it
Hey,
just,
Ralph.
it's like that message isn't going through.
Yeah. You know, everybody's got skeletons. I know Egolf's got more than I don't even want to know sometimes, but and there's other ones too that I know of that are in leadership. That the stream access rule, by the way, is because of leadership, bad choices, in my opinion. Let's move on. I hear you, bro. Let's let. Do we have time for one more question?
Yes.
Maybe.
My hand up.
Go ahead, Steve.
So Representative Leger, Fernandez, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got that close?
You got it perfect.
Okay, so there are a whole bunch of issues, and you're probably aware of 100% of them in Congressional District 3. I've got a federal issue that relates to our rivers in New Mexico, and it's the Gila River in southwest New Mexico, which is the homeland of the Fort Sill Apaches. It's actually Geronimo was born on the banks of the Gila River, they say. And Senator Udall introduced into the last session, along with Senator Heinrich, the Wild and Scenic Rivers Gila River bill. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
And I was wondering if you were willing to sponsor that on the House side. It looks like we're going to have to wait into your session to reintroduce that again and to pass that. It would protect about 400 miles plus of the beautiful canyons and forks of the Gila up into the mountains there, and it's a particularly important recreational resource down there in the Fort County area, and hope that you can do all in your power to help us find ways to protect our rivers.
Yes, I intend to carry on a lot of the bills that were not able to make it through, and hopefully hopefully we'll get some of those passed. There is an interesting ability to get some Republican votes on these bills, like the Outdoor Act, right? We were able to get, yeah, right. So even if it's close in the Senate, that hopefully we'll be able to do some of that great work. We know that some of those legislation takes more than a year or 2 or 3 to get passed. And the trick is to keep pushing it and keep pushing it. And, Udall retires, Heinrich's there, Benway will be there, and I'll work on that on the House. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for those questions, you all. And thanks for the good answers, Mom. But in the interest of not keeping you guys on this Zoom meeting forever, I'd like to move into introducing our online auction that we're having. So I am going to post here in the chat a link so that you all can go to this auction. And I'm also going to share my screen here so you can see what we're looking at. We're running this auction through the service that's Bidding Owl. It makes it super easy. Can you all see my screen all right?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah. So this is the page that you'll open up as you follow that link, hopefully. But yeah, so you can see up here in the top right, it's logged in as me. Super easy to log in. It takes 30 seconds. You just put your email and your name in there, and you can just confirm it through your email. And once you've done that, you can scroll through all the amazing items that we have for you guys to grab today. So yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be a river source auction if we didn't have, you can see there's this half-day exploration of riparian.
He is the first contract. This is the first. He's the reason River Source exists, and he's an incredible naturalist and very funny also. So we call him Mr. Bill.
Yeah. So there's these, in addition to There's these amazing experiences that you could auction for, you could bid for. There's also incredible art here, experiences, Meow Wolf passes, and some unique art. I'd like to highlight this handmade fence post lamp, which is a pretty unique piece to put up. But also, if we scroll down a little bit, you can see that we have pieces from our very own Carlos Herrera. When we were out surveying these various rivers, Carlos would often, mention to me some bits and pieces about, what kind of willows make good baskets, and, how you can use coyote willow for this, and then you can use the color from blue stem willows here and there. But there's a gorgeous basket there that our own Carlos has weaved together, as well as a piece by his brother, Tim Herrera, with some beautiful earrings. So yeah, you guys can feel free to scroll through this.
Just a couple, can I just mention really quickly, sorry, can you scroll down? A couple interesting items. We actually have one of the offers of the deep porcupine ecology with Dan Shaw. Dan, I don't know if you just want to unmute for a minute and tell us a little bit about what to expect. Dan, you have to unmute yourself if you can. There you are.
Yes, thank you so much. What can you expect? You can expect slow moving porcupines and a little bit of opportunity to learn about them from what we've learned about them. And they are North America's second largest rodent behind the beaver. So Congresswoman, you think the beaver are cute? Well, spend some time with a porcupine and they're quite endearing too. So yeah, we'll go out in the field and we'll spend some time trekking around and seeing what porcupines do and be in really good quality habitat for them. So yeah, it's an Albuquerque experience.
But we don't want to get too close, right?
Well, actually, you can hold them by the tail without getting any quills in your hand.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Is that how you radio collar them?
Oh, you have to bid on this to find out the details. Get a radio collar on a porcupine. That one that's right there is the kids call him Jojo, and he's a 8-year-old male. He's at least 8 years old, and we've been working with him off and on for the last 7 years. So he's well known to us.
And then just one last thing, there's some really great art by Carol Schrader, and a recent, just this afternoon at the very bottom, please, these prints from Moises Gonzalez, who's a UNM professor and a colleague and friend of mine. He's just written a book called Henizado Nation, which talks about the history of New Mexico from this borderland, mix. And these are some of the prints that he makes. Of course, he's a well-known person. Anyway, lots of cool stuff here, folks. Thank you, Abelino. I'll turn it.
Yeah, and then you can see this rug as well. I'd like to point that out, is also hanging in the back of Rich's Zoom. So if you want a better look at that, it's behind his head.
That I think that's a gift from Maria Varela to Francis Ortega, but Francis, you're here, you could chat. I can't remember. This is a historic rug from that area. Up at the Tierra Wills Ganados de Valle cooperative. All right, well, let's see.
So just
not to interrupt you, Rich.
Go ahead, Ralph.
But,
go ahead.
I've been working with Michael Dax and some stuff with the beavers and stuff that's going on the Pecos. It's not the beavers' fault. The beavers do what they do, right? I just wish that there was a better placement for them. Either take them or whatever, because the only option that gave me was to trap them and kill them.
Yeah.
And I felt so bad when I was pulling these 80-pound beavers out of the damn river. I felt so bad, and it just broke my heart.
Yeah.
And it's like, why can't we relocate them? Why can't we just put them somewhere else? But Teresa, I have a lot to talk to you about. Do you have my phone number?
Yes.
Yeah. So can you please call me? I really need you big time.
Yes, and Rich, can I add to that, Rich? And one of the biggest things that we're dealing with right now is not the facts that the beavers are out of place. It's the fact that the humans are out of place. They were here first, just like the Native Americans. And what we need to do is redevelop the situation that we can acknowledge their right to exist, just like the water. If we want water in the rivers, we need to create laws. We need to create regulations for them to exist. And the beavers are not the problem. People are always the problem, and they always put their problem upon nature, upon the environment, and they always want to change what does not adapt to them. And so that's one of the biggest things, is we need to acknowledge that nature and the environment needs the right to exist. So Ralph, don't kill those beavers, okay? Next time, give us a call. We know somebody from the Game and Fish, and they'll help us relocate them to Bandelier.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's one of the things that just killed me.
No, well, yeah, that's great. I'm glad you raised that, because it
broke my heart.
Yeah, it's a heart thing too. Yeah, it's like, and why? I mean, it's because I feel like a lot of us can feel that beavers have a right to exist, right? You know, just like rivers have a right
to exist.
Yeah, rivers have a right to flow. You know, people have a right to exist in place and not get moved because your water got sold.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, David Benavides told me, he says, the whole principle about acequias is that we have a right to live in place, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we just got to learn that. And the only thing that, really bugged me about that, the only solution the Game and Fish warden had was to bring me traps. And then he found where they would slide into the river, and then he'd put the traps there, and he's all, when you get them, get them. And to me, that was after the first trap. After I got the first one, I went and weighed it out. It was 80 pounds.
Wow.
And I felt so bad. Oh, you don't know how just believe me. I felt so damn bad that I had to kill that beaver. And it's like, isn't there another solution? Can we move them up north or do something with them? But no, they didn't give me that. They didn't give me that option. All he gave me was
Cave Creek actually might be a good spot. Abelino could talk about that. He did that survey. Cave Creek and Panchuela.
Yeah, Cave Creek's a beautiful place.
And then look, there was no beaver there, but the habitat looked good.
Marcy?
Yeah, first of all, Congresswoman-elect, I'd like to welcome you to another group of women in the Congress. That's fabulous. I think it's really important that our voices are heard. And you have a lot of work to do, because the current number 45 really did a lot of ecological damage with some of his executive orders and laws. But one of the things in listening to everybody today is that, we think about laws, but when we put a budget together for the law, we really need to have money in there for education. Because, a lot of people don't really, I think it was Chief Seattle who said, everybody is a thread in the web. And I think a lot of people, because we've become so technologically disassociated with life, forget that we need, as it was said here, we really need each other to, as humans, as nature, as animals, to keep the balance in this climate and in this earth. So one of the things in looking at laws and budgets it's really to say we also need money in those laws, not just to have the laws enacted, but for the education of the community. You know, it's like what's happening with COVID and masks. I mean, people don't always get it. So I'd like to thank you for taking up the cause of RiverSource and the cause of Mother Earth and all of us who are mothers and fathers of the earth. But I just wanted to make a statement that we often forget that we need the money for the statewide education and to understand the history and the herstory of the water in this state and this community. And that's why I think RiverSource and other nonprofits also who work for the climate also need to be remembered when we're enacting a budget. So I want to thank you ahead of time for winning the election and for the work you're going to do and for being here tonight with RiverSource, because I think they're doing amazing work. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, and duly noted. And we are hopeful that many of the worst of the executive orders will be able to be overturned. Some of the regulations, like what they did with regards to our ephemeral streams, will have to go through a longer process. So it's going to take some time to undo the hurt, but we will keep working on it. And thank you. Duly noted.
Thank you.
Teresa,
I want to go back to that auction. There's some great stuff
with
in
us.
there.
Okay, well, actually, let me just actually quickly acknowledge somebody here in the room. It's Dan Shaw in the Bosque School. Marcy was giving me a pretty good lead in there. I think you were throwing me a bone. Thank you. And I want to acknowledge Marcy too, because she helps us with fundraising. She's the one that gave me the ganas to even think about inviting you. It wouldn't have happened without you, Marcy. Thank you. And I also want to, so this is the moment. This is the ask, okay? I know many of you contributed to get in here. Some of you may help us out with the auction if you find something you like. But if you haven't contributed in some way, I welcome you to do that, okay? And it's really easy to do. It's actually only because the Bosque School, because of Dan Shaw, that we're able to have this weird hybrid. You know, RiverSource is an S Corp with one employee. We're a multinational corporation, watch out. But we one employee S Corp, but then we've got the fiscal sponsorship of the Bosque School, which you can get online and donate with a credit card. And Dan has made that possible. And the good work of the Bosque School, which is a private 501c3 in Albuquerque. Anywho, if you want to donate, just go straight to our webpage, riversource.net, and you can, there's a donate button, and that'll fund all kinds of really important work, like the memorial that I was writing today to introduce the concept of personhood for rivers for the state legislature and have students do the research to present it to an interim committee in the summer. Work related to healthy soils. It's a brand new curriculum, and we know soils and food deserts and climate change are all connected, okay? And this kind of mashup that we get to do with Trout Unlimited. I mean, this is brilliant, that with Harris and Dan and Toner, they pulled this together. And a bunch of guys donating money, and it was very fast. We started work on it like a week after they told us it was available. So anyway, your contribution will go to good things. And we run like a nonprofit, really. As I think the co-founder is here on, Carol, the co-founder of RiverSource is here. She told me once, you run it like a nonprofit. So yeah. So that's the ask. And I want to take one moment to let David give you a quick tour of something we spent about $6,000 on, a brand new online teaching tool called LearnDash. And all of our curriculums are going online. And you know what's funny about this is that we're using text that was written in 2002. So but it's in a paper copy. So go ahead, David, you want to, and unmute too, David.
Yeah. So let's see if I did I do that right?
Yep.
Okay. So this is our new LearnDash River Source site. And this is Watershed for Community Science. There's also Watershed for adult volunteers and for teachers. And all of these students, teachers, volunteers can all access just by clicking here through Community Science. So right now this is free. It's available for anybody interested in learning more about both how to protect our watersheds, how to discover the health of our watersheds, and how to engage youth in hands-on science and exploration. So I mean, it starts at the beginning. It says quizzes, but don't get nervous. It's more like to create some interactivity with answering. So I think that's a brief overview. I invite you to explore this on your own.
All right, thanks, David. All right, so I think we're getting, let's see, how do I get out of this? How do I exit? There we are.
You know how we get out of this, Rich?
Yes,
Can you hear
sir.
me?
Yes, sir.
We need to come together as humans.
Yeah.
As human beings that all share this world. We share the ecosystems, we share the acequias, we share everything. And that's one thing that I've always fought for, is bringing people together, and enough of the bickering, enough of the, oh, I'm against you because I'm part of the Wilderness Alliance. I'm against you because I'm part of the Acequia Association. I'm against you because you're part of this. Enough's enough. I think we need to come together and find a solution for our environment, period.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're going to kill it for our kids.
Yeah, you know, I'm so glad you said that, because actually, yes, sir.
Can I chime in on that? And yeah, that's one of the biggest things that I've seen coming forth within the last year is, you know, dealing with this online environment has created that barrier amongst people. Wearing masks has created that barrier amongst people. As scientists, we do acknowledge the fact that wearing masks is a beneficial thing for the people around us. But when you see our own children failing at school because they cannot go and see their teachers, they cannot see their friends, it has created that that divide that we're all trying to fight to get beyond. And I hope that those are some of the things that we see within the coming year, to find a way so that we can all be together, so that next time we hold our conclave, that we are not meeting people over a Zoom meeting, because I'm sick of Zoom meetings. But I did figure out a way to get a good picture behind my head, by the way, for tonight. So, and it was a bandolier of my homeland. And one thing that my dad told me is, you know, those spirits are the ones that guide us. They are the ones that are here with us.
Is that
they
you,
are
Carlos?
The ones that they continue to hold us who we are. And they are not divided by digital. They are not divided by internet. They are not divided by Wi-Fi. They are the ones that hold us up. They are the ones that keep us there. They are our grandpas, our grandmas. They are the ones that we pray to in the morning, those of us that go out and pray.
Yeah.
And if we want to continue to find a way, we need to find a way to acknowledge that the divides that we have created as humans are not who we are. That we need to acknowledge those people that have made us. Your grandfather's Ralph, your great grandfather's Ralph, everybody's grandfathers, everybody's grandmothers, so that we can continue on beyond these divides. Because that's one of my big goals in the next year, is to break these divides and realize that we are all connected. And water is one way that we are connected. So thank you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. And actually, I forgot, Renee, do you have just a minute? I just want to ask the staff, Renee and David, to reflect quickly. What have you heard today that you will take into your work for the coming year?
Just for me personally, I really love the way that Congresswoman-elect Teresa put it. Just keeping that shimmering feeling, that connection, that root that you feel to where we know that this is what we're supposed to be doing. We know that we're supposed to be fighting for this, and I really wholeheartedly do feel that. So I just really appreciate the way she described it.
Thank you. David?
I really resonate with what Teresa was saying about concentric circles, and how the work I'm doing, or the work we're doing here, all collectively exists within some kind of concentric circle that moves outwards, and working to include more and more in those circles.
All right, well, I did promise we would end at 6:30 because we're all experiencing Zoom fatigue. So big hug to everybody. We've recorded this and we will be sharing it out. Abelino, anything to say at the...
Can I say something?
Yes,
I will say I went to the website and saw all those beautiful auction items. I really encourage everybody to go and buy some good stuff. I mean, oh my goodness, talk about great Christmas gifts. And just to clarify, these auction items are going to be available to the 20th, right?
Yes, we're going to extend it out till the 20th. Yes, yeah.
So
Exactly.
I am going to send this around to some of my friends to say, go check out this auction. And I encourage everybody to do that. Pass it along to your network, post it, Facebook, all those good things. I don't really know how to do them, but my Kira does, and so does Abelino, because that's a great way for people to help support. And then it's really easy to get to your donate button. Also, just it's nice and big on top. You go to RiverSource and there's a nice big donate button up on the top, and you get a beautiful picture of the school. Of the Bosque School. So big thanks to Bosque School for making that possible, and Dan.
Yeah. All right. Good night, everybody. Be well.
Thank you guys for being here. We appreciate you. We love you guys. All of you. Keep up the good work. Wait, wrong way.